Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is June 10, 2024. Want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Also want to thank John Els for introducing me to today's guest, Peter Sellars. Where in the heck you calling in from, Peter?
Jerry, I am at home for one day in Los Angeles. It's huge.
How cool is that? The first question, Peter, is what is the best thing for a human being?
Oh, yeah. Well, hello. A little bit of friends, some love, some something to eat that you're sharing with people, and it's just sense of we're doing something real on this earth right now. It's time to get
Yes,
real. It's time to get real. It's time to get real. Let's
get
be real.
real.
Let's be real together.
Together. You are such a community person. I love you. Okay, so what's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Oh, penetration of cells. Or even better,
Penetration of
interpenetration of cells, please.
inner. And so why do you think of cells? That is so good. Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Well, because we're all part of each other, and it's just
Yeah.
annoying to be separate.
Yeah.
And so we just have to glom onto each other and keep trying to move through each other. And when they give you all that, those beautiful images of walking through walls, hello, that's what we're doing every day. We're walking
That's it.
right through the walls. We're walking right through the walls. Anywhere they want to put a wall, we're walking through it.
Like Gumby. We saw it. He visualized it for us in
Well, you
cartoon.
gotta stay flexible. Let's just say that, and we've seen that rigid is no fun in that sense. So let's just not do that. Let's just stay moving, stay alive, please, please,
Love
please,
it.
please. Particularly,
Peter,
when you're in the face of the kind of political situation that's
yeah.
all over the world at this moment. Come on, we got to move, and we've got to move beautifully, and we've got to move with elan and grace and fun and irresistibility and the sheer call of how do we get together more closely, more closely, more closely.
You're a wordsmith indeed. So, is this need or want to collect information, gather it, more innate or more invented?
Well, I would just say, for one thing, information is not my favorite word. As you can imagine, it's currently being owned by a lot of people. Information is something you can probably own,
Yeah,
whereas what we're talking about is knowledge, which
yeah.
you cannot own.
Good.
And what we're talking about is wisdom, which nobody owns.
Yeah,
And so, could we just move into those realms, because information needs to become wisdom? And right now, we have a lot of people who know a lot but are not very wise.
yeah.
And we got to get to the place where, because right now, really unwise things are being done every second. And you just, excuse me, you people know a lot, but you people are clue free.
Yeah.
And so, come on, let's take the information to a way cooler place.
Yeah. Fill in the blank, Peter. I don't know what I think until I
Live it and hang out.
live it. Well, McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. And I'm finding this tendency for people to say, I don't know what I think until I do it, live it,
Live
experience
live
it.
it, live it, live it. Go in,
Yeah.
go in there first. Go in there, live inside, because looking from the outside, you don't get it.
Yeah.
You gotta be in it. You gotta be in it. You got
Yeah.
it.
We call it knee deep in the swamp muck.
Well, hello, or actually, what's the knee thing? Neck deep.
Neck deep, eye deep.
Let's get real.
Peter, can humans think without language?
I think we overvaluing the thinking part of everything, because thinking is not separate from feeling.
Yeah.
And so you're actually feeling things, and you're feeling things you don't have words for, and you'll never have words for.
Yeah.
And they're going right through your body, they're going right through your whole system. And then if you can think on top of that, sure. But actually it's feeling.
Yeah.
And right now, again, we have a lot of smart people destroying the planet. So thinking minus the feeling thing is not cutting it. And just being smart and just thinking a lot is not that helpful. You actually need to feel everything. Just go in there, and not, again, alone, because none of us, when we're just alone with our feelings, that's not too healthy. You really want to actually have a friend who says, that's bullshit, or have a friend who says you're onto something, but
Yeah.
you need a friend.
Yeah. Chomsky says a language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Music.
Yeah. Hello.
just go for music right away,
Yeah.
because language is what separates us from each other, and music is what puts us together again.
Yeah. Now, you already answered this. What's your observations of humans? Are we more thinking or more feeling beings? But I'll throw out these, you can elaborate, because I'll throw out these two other thoughts in that regard. There's a bumper sticker on a car in my street, and it says, "Don't believe everything you think." And I go, well, you could say, "Don't believe everything you feel." And then Bridget Bardot says, "When I make love, I don't think." And I'm like, good luck. How can you turn your brain off from thinking when you're doing a most sensual thing? Or people who meditate, they go, okay, now think about not thinking. So, I mean, I know you can't separate feeling from thinking. We invented the words, and so we think we can separate them, that they're like this. But in general, are humans more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
Like, being mindful is silencing the mind.
Yeah,
Just actually shut up.
yeah,
Enough.
yeah,
Enough. Because your
yeah,
mind is making up shit right and left. And
yeah,
your mind is convincing you of all kinds of bullshit all the time. And
yeah,
you're making explanations for this and excuses and whatever. Is this a genocide? Is this not a genocide? Hello, what? If that's really what you're thinking about, excuse me. So could we just say, enough with the mind and enough with the mind driven everything? Your
yeah.
body is telling you the truth all the time. Your body's
Amazing.
not making shit up. Your body
That's
says if your hand is in some fire, hello, your body's going to tell you, remove your hand from the damn fire now. Right? There's no excuse, explanation. No, it's just get your hand out of the flame and stop burning up.
yeah,
And so your body is trying to communicate with you constantly, and your mind is trying to be in denial with what your body is saying constantly. And meanwhile, check in with the body first.
yeah. It's good, Peter. So these are two from Alan Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
I think the soul is moves everything to a place that can't be reduced to thinking, because again, it's a complete holistic realm, which
Yeah,
is no longer the pieces, it's no longer the parts, it's the whole. And
wow,
you're in the wholeness. You're in the wholeness where nothing is separate and where everything is 360. Everything is in its completeness, in its multiplicity, in its simultaneity, in its infinitely impenetrable, inexhaustible, delirious, ecstatic. And so just the wholeness, the soul thing is whole. The soul
yeah,
thing is everything. The soul thing is all of it, not some of it. It's
yeah,
everything.
everything. The second, beautiful, Peter. The second Turing question is, can machines think?
I mean, we've seen the results of that. And if you want to call that thinking, okay. But, again, we have, for one thing, overemphasized reason.
Yeah,
Nobody votes reasonably. Reason is not driving human beings ever. And what we feed machines is reason. And of course, we are deeply irrational beings. And most every single thing we do is super irrational, super intuitive, super based on putting something together that never was together before,
Yeah.
or was together like generations ago and millennia ago, and suddenly comes together again right in front of you. You go, what? And so the putting of things together that don't belong together is called poetry. and and
Yes.
and and it's this beautiful thing of, no, these two things are not like each other, and yet they rhyme.
Yeah.
And a machine can't cope with that. They can't cope with, the machine can put things together that belong together because they're in a category, and everything we care about each other doesn't go into any category ever, and will never be in a category.
Love it. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I don't think there's a particular gulf between those things. It's like, hello, how satisfying is it when something means something? That's called happiness.
Yeah.
When your life has meaning, okay, happiness is permitted.
Yeah.
And when your life doesn't have meaning, it's hard to sit there and feel happy. I
Yeah.
mean, you just want to say happiness is not what I'm experiencing right now, because nothing means anything. And my
Yeah.
life doesn't mean anything. And my life is without a purpose and without a sense of momentum and forward motion and participation and engagement and all that stuff. All those things are because there's meaning. And meaning is the thing that draws you out of yourself and into life with everyone else. And then happiness happens because you don't even know it's happening.
Yeah.
That's called happiness. If you have to check, then it doesn't quite qualify as happiness.
Well, yeah, because I got it from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. He says happiness doesn't tend to last, meaning does tend to last.
I would just say, I let's go a deeper one step farther, because happiness is too weak a word when we're talking about joy.
Yeah.
And joy happens, with all deep honor to Viktor Frankl, joy happens because of tragedy.
Yeah.
And the reason Disney can only stay at the happiness level is because they can't touch the tragic level.
Yeah.
And joy is what people who have been through hell have the right to feel.
Yeah.
And if you've been at the bottom, and if you've been down there, then you taste something. That's joy.
Yeah.
And happiness is a little lingering, but it's very bourgeois. And I just want to say, nothing deep lasts for long, because impermanence is the nature of the universe. So you're not going to hold on to something and say, oh, I'm going to have this forever. No, you're not. You're going to have it for the next 22 seconds, but those 22 seconds are a lifetime,
Yeah.
or multiple lifetimes, or something. So, because what really lasts, hopefully almost nothing. Hopefully we keep moving. And hopefully the morphing is so important, because you don't want to get stuck anywhere right now. There are not too many moments you want to put in the freeze frame. You want to say, no, keep that tape running. we are not at the end. I don't want to freeze anything in this state. I want to keep moving. I want to keep going. I'm going to say, okay, we're approaching something, sure, but have we arrived? Are you kidding?
Yeah. That's Tom Waits says the best music doesn't want to be recorded.
Oh,
And it's like this moving thing. And then what you're doing is you're helping me. It's really me and you versus the wording on the questions. I'm for changing the verbs and the nouns, and like a lot of people tend to do that. When I ask happiness and meaning, they go, it's joy. It's not so much happiness we're talking about here. So does the brain, Peter, more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
the brain is like your toothbrush, or it's like nothing. It's like a thing.
Yeah.
The brain isn't doing anything. The brain
Yeah.
is mechanical.
Yeah.
Consciousness is infinite.
Yeah.
Consciousness doesn't fit under your skull. Consciousness doesn't fit, in your veins. Consciousness is interplanetary.
Yeah.
Consciousness is intergalactic. Consciousness is the thing that lets you know what your ancestors are thinking, which your brain has no idea of. And so all I want to say is the brain is, God knows, bless it. It's good that we can walk. It's good that, you can pick up a spoon. Okay. But the brain is there, and the brain also is not rather powerless in its own trauma, the brain gets trapped pretty easily. And consciousness is not stuck. Consciousness moves. Consciousness moves beyond all borders and boundaries and limits. And the brain is super limited and super mechanical. And so science can understand it because, again, I mean, my thing, Jerry, is this like non-scientific and scientific knowledge, right? Scientific knowledge is whatever you can measure.
Yeah.
And non-scientific knowledge is whatever doesn't have a number attached to it.
Yeah.
It's like there is no number in how much your grandmother loves you.
Yeah.
You're not going to calculate that. And actually, all the real things in life are incalculable.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, all the other stuff that you can measure, it's fine, but it's by definition super limited.
Yes. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
In the best traditions, obviously, thought is light.
Yeah.
And of course, in the Hindu tradition, speech is light.
Wow.
And that's how light comes into the world, because each of us comes bearing light.
There's a poet, Audre Lorde, who said, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague, Yvonne Rayner, responded and said, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
There's a main tool that's, available, but also takes a lifetime to figure out how it works, which is called the heart.
Yes. Wow. I love it. No one says the heart, Peter. Thank you. What new toy do you suggest?
I'm in this weird thing that, the basics are so real right now.
Yeah.
People need to be fed.
Yes.
People need a place to live.
Yes.
Put away your toys. It's time to do real stuff. It's like, hello, who needs playtime? We actually need to do the real stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's playtime. Because, of course, once you're doing the hard stuff, you realize it's only possible if you're having a good time. Because the hard stuff is impossible if you're just serious and bitter and forcing everything. You have to be playful with everything in the world that doesn't want to play. And so the play comes once you're doing something impossible, and everybody needs a break, and then it's time to play. But you don't want to just play. You want to actually be doing the hardest thing in the world and say, now, playtime.
Yeah. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
I'm not a worrier because worry doesn't help anything.
Yeah.
My rule is, will this help? Those are the only 3 words.
Wow.
And does worry help? Absolutely not. And
Yeah.
particularly with the person you're worried about, you're not
Yeah.
helping them for 1 second by not trusting them.
Yeah.
And so step 1, don't let anybody feel you're worried about them ever. And one of the things I tell people all the time is, you're one person I'm not worrying about.
Wow.
Have faith in them. Have faith in them.
Have faith
Give
in
them the benefit of not only the doubt, but everything else.
everything.
And stop worrying.
Yeah.
Worry just puts everyone back in their cage.
Yeah. McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Peter, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Well, we're also in a wacky period because art is turned into a corporate entertainment package and materialistic. You can own one of those,
Yeah,
and so a lot of the antennae situation have turned into the art market,
yeah,
and so I think also you have to just say who's an artist, and as the Sufis say, the world is being held together by some girl or a guy behind some really messed up piece of plexiglass with a slot in it that's selling candy and newspapers in Grand Central Station in a tiny place where there's only room to stand, and that person is holding the whole universe together. It's just, in fact, who are you looking to for your profits? Their profits are hidden. Your profits are next to you and you didn't even know.
yeah,
The antennae are everywhere and you're just not realizing. You're ignoring that person next to you and you're not realizing, no, they've got the antennae. They're the
yeah,
ones that are doing the intergalactic thing, and they're the ones that are feeling everything and
yeah,
seeing it. And obviously there are plenty of right now people who don't have a place to live, and so they're on the street and they see everything. They're just seeing everything. Most of us are rushing past it, but a lot of the key antennae people are people who are abandoned and see everything and feel
Peter.
everything.
Peter, so beautiful. I sit half my life at Venice and Lincoln waiting for the light to change on my bicycle. The homeless dude in the gutter has a smile. Everybody in the cars are like this. "Ugh." It's like, what's right with this picture? That
Yeah.
guy's smiling.
Yeah. Somebody's not just running through life as fast as they can and ignoring everything on either side of them. Somebody's actually there and
Yeah,
actually is taking the time, which no one else is taking right now.
yeah. One of Marshall's favorite lines: the Balinese have no word for art. They do everything as well as they can.
Yeah, I mean, well, then I have to tell you a story from Bali. I met one of the great elders who was a dance master for 4 generations in Bali,
Yeah.
and because I knew his son, and who's a beautiful dancer, of course. And this guy said there are good dancers, excellent dancers, and great dancers. The good dancer knows the music inside and out, knows all the moves, can execute everything perfectly. That's a good dancer. The excellent dancer knows all the moves, knows the music inside and out, can execute everything perfectly, and knows the secret meaning. But the great dancer knows all the moves, knows the music inside and out, can execute everything perfectly, knows the secret meaning, and is a farmer. That's the great answer. That's from Bali.
I love it. Sounded like the guy goes to the guru and says, "What's the best question I can ask you?" And he goes, "The one you just asked me." Do artists have moral obligation?
Oh God, yeah. No, if you're given something, then you gotta step up.
Yeah,
You gotta step up, and it's there for a reason.
yeah.
And if you're seeing something, as they say something. You gotta, if you have some kind of vision, then that is a responsibility to be present, and present publicly and present with courage, because your gift is actually requiring courage.
Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Uh, There was a great Sufi al-Ansari who had this great thing of, "I'm not afraid of the future. I'm afraid of the past."
Yeah, another great Marshall line. The future ain't what it used to be.
Oh god, yeah, no, not at all. And at the same time, hello, it's an invitation to go forward so deeply because actually we know what we don't want.
Yeah,
That's actually clear. So let's move. Let's
yeah,
move towards something instead of away from it. And
yeah.
that's the big thing is we're now, right now, everybody's moving away, trying to get away from things, but not actually going toward anything.
Yes.
And so what are you going towards? That's the question.
Yeah,
I know what we're going away from,
yeah,
but what are we going towards?
yeah. I love your emphasis on the word move. Peter, can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
Wow, that's intense. I never have. I have to say, I'm one of these people who truly is not interested in looking back ever.
Yeah,
Uh, it doesn't, every once in a while, sure, something catches you, but right now, the incoming is so amazing. It's like what is ahead is so thrilling. What is coming
yeah,
towards you is so thrilling. And I don't really feel the need to, and at the same time, a lot of my life is with incredible people where you're hanging out with Aboriginal elders in a situation where, yes, something truly ancient is where we're meeting. We're
yeah.
meeting in a really ancient place in an ancient way. And then you have to just say, oh, right, time is an illusion.
Yes.
Like,
Wow.
stop. And, the Buddhists are clear about that. They call it the
Yeah,
three times the past, present, and the future are all simultaneous. They're the same thing because the past is never finished, it keeps going.
yeah,
Meanwhile, the future is whatever you just did today. And meanwhile, hello, the present, all of the above. So, let's just actually plunge all the way and stop making a timeline and just dealing with the fact that, time, like everything else, is circular, is whole, is continuous, contiguous, and simultaneous.
yeah,
And the most ancient thing in the world is happening at this moment. And the wildest moment of the future is happening at this moment. And just pay attention.
yes. That's I learned from both James Joyce and Frank Zappa. All at onceness. All times are happening now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Simultaneity. You really, the- you
That's it.
really, you're concise and you're really communicating. I appreciate this, Peter. But the question follow up is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Well, the point about memory is it's alive. Everybody thinks it's like some old photograph album. It is not.
Yeah,
Those memories are changing. Your memories are changing with you every minute.
yeah,
So your memory is as alive as every other part of you. And
yeah,
and so every moment, I always tell, people just think of an image of your mother and then call that back. But of course, that image is changing even as you're calling it back because you know more about her now than you did then when you took that picture. And so all those things are just every second of your life is starting over again every second.
second. Yeah,
And so it is just all continuing. And so memory again is not back there. Memory is this thing you're going through right this minute, right this second.
yeah,
And it's you're forgetting most of it. And what you're remembering is something you're creating right now. And so that it's memory is a creative act and it's super rich with everything that's pouring through your being. And so just enjoy it, and also listen to it because something's
yeah,
coming back to you for a reason. It is a message,
yeah,
and you're getting a lot of messages.
yeah. David Lee Roth, here today, gone later today. So tell me someone within your immediate family, then outside your immediate family, just briefly, who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model, and what specifically was that impact?
You know, every let's put it this way. In my line of work, Jerry, I'm every day with people I love.
Yeah.
I get to invite people who are incredible. Every day I'm working with thrilling people.
Yeah.
I'm hanging out with people who are beyond belief. And
Yeah.
so I have teachers around me 24/7 and I have role models 24/7.
Yeah.
And just when you start to feel, you know, really stupid, open your eyes and right in front of you is somebody telling you, modeling everything.
Yeah.
Modeling everything. And you know, and the whole thing is, you know, everything in your life is a teacher. Everything is in your life is teaching you. And so part of that is uh, pain is also a great teacher. And so,
Yeah.
as the Dalai Lama would say, you among your most influential friends are your enemies,
Oh yeah.
and and they're the ones deepening your practice, and they're the ones that are giving you the role modeling and the like. Who should you be? If you're in front of that person, if you're facing that person, if you're dealing with all that. So for me, the teachers and the role models are coming positively and negatively, and are
Yeah.
coming when you're aware of them and when you're not aware of them, and when you want to hold them and hug them, and when you want to push them away. All of that is your teacher.
Yeah. That's American Indians, indigenous natives say your enemy is your best teacher. And you may have ESP because you're anticipating a question like two down the road.
Oh, okay.
One, very good, Peter. That was good. But did your parents raise you a particular religion?
You know, yes, and at the same time, you know, and my life is has lots of spiritual practice moving through it, again because of the geographies that I'm living in and the people I'm hanging out with.
Yeah.
So I have lots of traditions moving through on a pretty daily basis.
Do you pray?
Well, I mean, what else is life?
Thank you. You get these words. Okay, Peter, if God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Well, first of all, we're not going to die ever. Second of
Ah,
all,
very good. Very good.
so okay, like
Oh,
life
but
is eternal.
Let's imagine
Life is eternal, Jerry.
that
Sorry. Sorry to break it to you. You
let's
can't kill
imagine
it.
there was
You can
let's
try, but you actually can't kill it.
yeah, no, I agree. But it's an imagined kind of scenario, like a joke scenario. If something slipped up and you did die and God's going to talk to you, what would you like him to say or like God to say to you?
You know, my basic thing about the proof that God exists is that I didn't get certain jobs I was hoping for.
Very.
And you say, okay, now we know God exists. I didn't get that job. Thank God. Whatever your damn script was,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It was a disaster and
Yeah.
God knew better.
Yeah, you got this one perfect. There's a new documentary on butthole surfers. In the trailer for 2 minutes is so mind blowing because these guys are the sickest puppies
Right,
ever to play rock and roll.
right.
But this great rock producer Steve Albini, he just died, and he said at the end of the trailer, "I regret getting involved with them because I don't want to be associated with people who are that awful." There's a little twist there that's
Whoa,
funny. Like, oh,
whoa,
you wish you
whoa.
could have been with them, but um, do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
You know, I'm with the thing that there's no evil, there's ignorance.
Ah, yes.
And so, which is kind of Hindu, but it's also the Jesus thing of like, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, which is true. That is true because people don't get that doing evil shit actually damages you more
Yeah,
than the people you're hoping to damage. And
yeah,
so, in fact, you know, damages you like way more.
yeah,
And so, evil is just self destruction, and so you got to have pity, compassion for people who
Yeah.
are in a super self-destructive place. And you get that people who are damaging people are damaged people. And
Yeah.
so you actually have to take care of them. You can't just hate them, and you can't just oppose them, because again, that creates more violence. So you've got to find another way through to calm the situation so that they can breathe. Because
Beautiful.
until they can breathe, no one is going to be safe.
Peter, so beautiful. Ram Dass said, I'm having a real hard time loving George Bush. It's like all you can do. And then the other one is,
Well, and excuse me, but all honor to Ram, but just to say, if he were still here right now, he would see how adorable George Bush is in retrospect.
hello.
George Bush is very loving and very adorable, and you want to cuddle him and treasure him compared to where we are now.
Yeah, exactly. And then Mark Twain said, forgiveness is the smell the flower releases when the foot steps on it.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Is that good? But really, Peter, the hidden question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
You know, the basic thing that America is about, and the announced thing about this country, is the thing is the most important thing in the world, is this equality.
Yeah.
You got to make equality. Until we're equal, nothing's real.
Yeah.
And so what does equality mean? Equality means you have to treat people as equals. Equality means you got to treat people well, no matter what. Equality means not until we are equal can we actually talk, do anything together. And everything up till then is total illusion, because we're living in a world of hierarchy and bullshit. And so step one is create the zone of equality. Step two is invite everyone into it.
Yeah. Well put. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Well, because a lot of people are, it's Sleeping Beauty. You're sleepwalking. Most people, they're not actually living life. They're simulating life. It's this weird simulation, and somebody has to kiss you in a way that you wake up.
Yeah.
Somebody has to say, excuse me, let's get rid of these bushes with all these thorns. Somebody has to say, like, what's this wall of obstacle and a lot of thorns? And somebody has to say, we got to kiss you until you wake up and say it's time to live. And so I think a lot of the things that people are in the middle of as life is actually not life. And life is way richer than that, way more beautiful. So I think one of the reasons a play or a film or a piece of music exists is because, news tends to be about negativity. It's like, how many people were murdered? How many people, it's all that, rather than how many blossoms are there on that fruit tree.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, beauty is statistically superior all day long. But we're focused on the negative. We're focused on where it bleeds. We're focused on somebody doing something horrible. And we're talking about that forever. And we're never talking about somebody doing something amazing, like all the mothers in the Congo somehow fed their kids tonight with nothing but incredible desire to feed their kids.
Yeah.
And they did it. And that's the miracle, and that's the event. And the event is how much beauty is there, and how much life is present, and how much courage and beauty is present. And the negative stuff is just so dumb.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, it occupies endlessly media space. And media space has come to be taken for reality. And you want to say, excuse me, there's not one true thing in any of that.
Yeah.
It's total illusion. And meanwhile, James Joyce's point is the tree is telling you what beauty actually is, and also is the only reason you can still breathe.
Yeah.
And so, it's not just a visual plus, it's actually hello.
Air. It's breathing.
Hello.
Hello. Take a deep breath.
Yeah, hello. You're breathing now. Please notice that. And once you start paying attention to your breath, you'll notice a few other things with the consciousness are occurring. So, yeah, let's go there.
Conscious breathing. How beautiful. Peter, tell me a tipping point when you said, I'm going to pursue theater as a calling. I mean, what are you doing in high school and even before high school and college? Are your parents taking you to theater? How'd you form this aesthetic? And then where'd you go? That's what I want to pursue, theater. Where's that tipping point?
On my growing up, I was obsessed with snakes and lizards and salamanders and turtles, reptiles and amphibians, and so I had a large collection of snakes at home.
Yeah.
And then when I was in 6th grade, a really cool guy who was in 8th grade, their family was moving to Alabama. And I thought, and this guy worked at a marionette theater in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, called the Lovelace Marionettes, which was a garage in East Liberty in Pittsburgh, a converted garage with the walls painted fuchsia with puppets and masks from all over the world. Now, I didn't know that. I just knew Carrie Stickney did that and he was cool. So when he was leaving, I said, well, tell them I will replace you. So when I was 10, I knocked on that door and that door opened into worlds, like Balinese masks with all the fangs and all of that was like when I was 10. There it was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And suddenly you're in this time space travel that is infinite and goes through your dreams, goes through everything. And of course, it's a puppet theater. So you're learning puppets can do everything people can't. So you're right away in this situation where nothing is impossible. You can figure it out. Puppets can fly, puppets can come apart and pull back together again. They can do anything. And so that sense that you're constantly present in miracles and the only place we're meant to live is the impossible. And that's where the pleasure is. And so that pretty changed my life when I was 10. And I went, further into that for a lot of the rest of my life. And that beautiful thing about puppetry is it's not just theater, because it's also carving and painting, and it's also this kind of sense of visual art that you're putting into movement. So it's a painting that's alive. You're making something where every part of this image is moving. And as you can probably tell from me, the beauty of life is that it's moving. And in Bali, since we're talking about Bali today, and Java, but also most cultures, most indigenous cultures, they don't have books, because why would you do that? And they write history books, and you want to say, excuse me, what did your high school history book tell you about Guatemala? It would be wrong, every sentence. And so, hello, what is the use of a book when you're just writing things that will later be embarrassing and untrue? And so they ask that people who tell you about dance are the historians. Because
Wow.
history is moving and only dancers can describe history.
Yeah.
And the past is never stopped. And so it is alive, and we're changing history every minute. We're changing what happened before every second. And so you entrust history to the dancers.
Yeah. Peter, this perfect time we're doing a special research project film on archiving. And the word came from 1400s, keep safe from harm. Then 200 years later, what we think of it, records preserved as evidence. But the basic question, I'll set it up a little, but the basic question is archiving more innate or more invented? Because here's Charles Baudelaire. If you try to make a statement long, deep, and rich, it will age very fast. If you try to only own the day you're talking, it will last forever. So Wyndham Lewis said artists live in the present and write a detailed history of the future. Why do we have to save all these boxes of crap when the whole point is to live in the moment? So the Egyptians would keep stuff in their coffin with them. And then I just found out through my friend's essay on Whitman's influence on Joyce that they would actually pour drink over their coffin so the grass would grow out of the coffin, like out of their remains. So this whole idea, I mean, we've covered this a lot. And this is like the dancers saying the history's in the movement. It's not in the books. Why is this need or want to archive more innate or more invented? Yeah, go ahead.
Any trace of something opens a world.
Yeah.
And there's so many worlds. And of course, what's so beautiful is everything that you're trying to save is nonetheless destroyed over and over again. How many archives have been destroyed and are constantly destroyed? And at the same time, what does not fit into the archive, right? The actual history of the world is everything the New York Times will never print. Because we lived through those times and you couldn't read about them in the New York Times. The actual cool things that were going on were not appearing in the newspaper of record. So for me, the idea that anybody thinks they're making a record is like, hello, that's already a first problem. And then the second thing is, weirdly, the stuff that was not meant to be saved sometimes appears. And that's kind of thrilling because you get that the official history is so inadequate to, because it was describing something that official people were interested in. And in fact, how much are we interested in what official people were interested in? Not a whole lot. They did not go to the best parties and they did not have the best drugs. And so you just want to say, everything that is kind of eternal will never be preserved. And that's when you then get into the next level, which is obviously that the real stuff is eternal. The real stuff is coming back to you, and it's coming back to you because the plants are telling you.
The plants,
and they're dancing are telling you about it. That's the point. And they know, and they've been watching. They're not running around. They're sitting there and they see it all, and they'll tell you about it. And that's, of course, what the Andean people really know, is because the Andean people, the plants told them everything, and the conversation is two ways, and it's deep. And who remembers the plants?
Well, Pee Wee Herman did, because his flowers sang, and that's what it reminded me of. They're singing flowers, but Peter, the futurist in the, they were my heroes because they say destroy all libraries and museums, but I don't really want them to because I go to the library every day. But you have your archives in the Getty, but there's a lot of stuff the Getty doesn't have. When you die, what plans do you have for that other stuff of boxes?
I have to say, the cool thing is, there's a beautiful scientist at UC Davis who spent the summer listening to 3 types of sage plants in the Sierra Nevadas.
Yeah.
The sage plants are in communication with each other constantly, and they speak 3 different languages. And everything that's happening, they're clocking. And they're clocking it in the plant. The plant itself is already the record of everything happening and the response to it. If this insect is showing up and you don't want that insect to show up, then the whole community is dealing with that. And then the plant growth demonstrates what they were doing. And meanwhile, if you suddenly say, no, we're going to host these insects, and suddenly it's a hotel, and suddenly the plant grows in these amazing ways, but it moves through the whole valley. It's because this communication is moving in all of these ways that are not written, but that are written, of course, in our bodies. So I would just say the cool thing is the bodies of plants, animals, trees, and humans. And you probably know this, but one of the coolest things about the in the Quran on the Day of Judgment. Every human being has to stand before their maker and say what they did on earth. And the incredible thing is it's organized. You walk on this, long path that's a razor blade and stand before God. And then guess what? Your mouth is closed and your body says everything you did. Because your body knows. And your mouth is lying all day long.
Ay, 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 that is really powerful. That it reminds me of this great author was on the radio and she says, "My mom never learned how to read because she was in the Bahamas or something, but she knows what to do when a tsunami hits because the songs told her that she sang. It wasn't a sign like here in Venice that says, 'Run up to Mar Vista quick, the tsunami's hitting.'"
Yeah. And the cool thing about the songs is that everybody holds those together.
Yeah.
Nobody owns that song, but actually that song is suddenly everybody knows each other
Yeah.
because that song links everybody. And it's, again, it takes that thing of what is danger doing in your life? Danger is actually the only way you're going to meet other people.
Peter, it's like the everybody's been lying, their mouth can't open, but they still can hum. That's a McLuhan joke. Why does the bee hum? Because he doesn't know the words.
Ooh, ooh, ooh,
But Peter,
ooh.
a screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process when you're directing a play?
Oh, intention is ridiculous. It's an illusion because obviously none of us know our real intentions. Intentions are the things we tell ourselves we're doing, but we're hardly ever doing those. And that is, of course, the pavement of the road to hell. And if you really think a lot of your intentions, you're in trouble because your intentions are total camouflage for
Yeah.
whatever you're really doing. And so the announced intention is never what happens. And also intentionality. It's nice to have a purpose, sure, but then let it go because in fact you're ruining everything with your damn intentions. And just calm down, back off, because as long as this life is a contest of wills, there's nonstop violence and nonstop failure. And nothing is a contest of wills. Just back off the contest of wills, back off your damn intentions, and notice that something bigger is underway, and actually join a larger thing than your damn intention.
Wow.
Because it's just, otherwise it's just you going head to head with somebody whose intention is the opposite, and it's just more stupidity and violence.
Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your potential viewers and audience when you're making your play, directing your play?
Wow. Well, I probably I have to tell you a little bit of a story then, because when I was 18, I lived in Paris, and I saw a great, incredible production by this great French director who later became a very close friend, and I hated every second of it. I hated every second of it. And I'm not a person like this, but I wanted my money back. I wanted my money back. This was so bad. And for 5 years, I just talked about this as the worst thing I've ever seen. And then 5 years later, I realized it was the best thing I've ever seen. And today, 50 years later, I can describe to you what happened all 3 hours. Right? So I never exactly worry about the audience because
No.
it's like your life. When
Yeah.
you're going through the most incredible time in your life, you don't know it.
Yeah.
And later you realize, oh, that's what that was. Oh, that's why she said that to me. Oh, that's what but you didn't know then. So I never worry about what people think that night. You put it all out there, and whatever goes to the place it needs to go to goes there. And then 10 years later, 20 years later, whatever it is, you put a seed in that person has turned into a tree.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is putting the seeds, making the seeds available, and it's the people who are actually caring for, cultivating, and giving the sunlight and the water to create the tree.
Yeah. That's McLuhan updated mid-career. Medium is the message to the user is the content.
It's all it is. It's all, and that's where the garden is in somebody's heart. It's not anything I'm making.
Yeah.
And so, and also, do people know how to care for the gardens? Some people don't.
Yeah.
And some people cultivate. I mean, that's why it's called culture, because it's cultivated. It's actually the act of caring for something that's super precious.
Yeah.
And after a while, this thing is a garden and is a forest.
Yeah. Couple quotes on art. I'd love to hear your reaction. Mike Kelly, art is making your problems other people's problems.
And let's go one further step, is that there will be no solutions until the problem is the solution. So the deal is, the only people who can stop gangs and gang warfare are gang members.
Yeah.
Duh. It will never be cops. It will never be social workers. It will be gang members.
Yeah.
So until the actual problem, people see the problem no longer as the problem, but in fact as the solution.
Yeah.
Stop looking at it as the problem and recognize
Yeah.
it is the only solution.
Yeah. That's back to Duchamp. He said,
Yeah.
there's no solution because there's no problem.
Hello. And,
Hello.
and America has spent so much time inflicting damage after damage while we're saving whatever country. And, we've, after 20 years in Afghanistan, people are starving. The society has been destroyed. Like, what were we helping? Excuse me. So, yeah, it's better to not be impressed with your own intentions and motives and announce that you're saving somebody, because you're not.
Exactly. Here's poet Fanny Howe. The point of art is to show people that life is worth living by showing that it isn't. I don't get that one, but I'm always
Well,
curious.
I would just say, again, for me, the issue is worth, quote unquote, worth, because again, this is for me a nightmare thing of who is worthy and who's not worthy. And you
Yeah.
want to say, get over that. Stop
Yeah.
making it about worth, because everything's worthy. Everything is
Yeah.
precious. Everything is a gift. And just treasure all of it.
When Brecht asked Charles Lawton, why do you do acting? He says, because people don't know what they are like, and I think I can show them. Pretty good for the guy who made Night of the Hunter, but any thoughts on that?
Well, I worked for many, many years with a great Czech costume designer named Dunya Ramakova. And we did a lot of costumes for a lot of our productions from photos in the social pages. And Dunya had this beautiful expression. She would say, "This person has no best friend." Nobody said, "You should not wear that. You don't look good in that." Most people don't have that friend to say, "Come off it." Come on. Please. We love you. So, yeah, it's good to have friends.
Yeah. Well, it's like Igor Stravinsky said, most people don't know what they like what they know.
Right. And also because, the kind of white supremacist drumbeat is underneath everything. Is you're actually looking at something, so it lets you feel you're important and you know everything.
Yeah.
And so the reason people like what they know is because they want to feel superior. They want to feel like they're the expert. And so the minute you show them something that contradicts that, they freak out. And at the same time, people want to be flattered by their knowledge, and you just want to say, none of us know anything. And for me, the difference between an artist and a politician is an artist starts with what they don't know.
Yeah.
And a politician is always starting with what they think they know.
They
But of
think
course they
they
don't. But of
know.
course they don't know. Of course they don't know. They know only so superficially, or they're simply wrong.
Yeah.
And what it means to go into every situation and say, I don't understand this. Let me spend time looking and asking. And gradually start to say, wow, this seems to be what's going on. But you have to start with everything you don't know and assume, even at the end of the process, you still don't know.
Yeah. The subgenius say, pull the wool over your own eyes. But my friend calls the 3 T's of music: technique, theory, and taste. So technique, you've learned how to do theater. Theory, you know the theory, you taught it. How does one acquire taste?
Uh, it was I, when I was younger, I went to a great lecture by a German art historian who had these 4 medieval sculptures on a front of a building. And he said, as you can see, these are the 5 senses, but there are only 4 sculptures. He said, you can see that only taste is missing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, that's like you have to live life.
yeah,
That taste is this other thing. It's like gradually you learn what you're tasting. You can taste what's in the back of your mouth. You
yeah.
can taste something before you taste it. You can, taste is so beautiful because it's everything that's elusive and that is totally, totally created by experience and nothing else.
Everything that is elusive. I love that one, Peter. So McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness, like knife and fork extends our teeth. The shutter in a camera extends our eyelid. Say consciousness or religion extends, religion or philosophy extends consciousness, even non-tangible. What does the puppet extend for you? What humanness is extended by a puppet?
Well,
Making a
it's a living being that
yeah,
is alive because you're empowering it.
yeah,
And like that's what we spend our lives doing is empowering
yeah,
people, empowering plants, empowering animals, is now whatever it is you have, share it.
yeah,
And share it, offer it to everyone. And that's the first step, is investing your attention and focus and life-giving powers. And we're all given life-giving powers. And
yeah.
please share them, please share them, please share them.
Please. I spoke with Michael Apted 40 years ago. I says, why do rock video editors feel so obliged to edit fast? He says, because we've learned to take in information faster. And most people don't know that this rapid montage was invented by Abel Gance in 1922, but it really flourished in the 80s with MTV, to the point where Marty Scorsese says, I cut my films faster because of MTV. So I asked this question with a bias. He's saying we can learn to take in information faster. Can we literally learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
Oh, well, Jerry, there are 2 forms of enlightenment. One is the enlightenment you spend your whole life on. And just you read that text thousands of times, you chant it, you try and take it into yourself. It's a lifetime of practice. And the other kind of enlightenment is instant enlightenment,
Yeah,
where in less than a second, in something that cannot be measured,
yeah,
you suddenly understand. You suddenly see, you suddenly
yeah,
acknowledge, you suddenly experience. You're suddenly open where you were closed. And so, which is not unrelated, because it's after a lifetime of whatever that's the sudden thing happens. But frankly, I in my work I use both. There are some
yeah,
things that have to happen in an instant, and other things that are really slowly developing, growing, evolving, and you have to live through it and go through the long journey, because it's a pilgrimage that if you just took a shortcut You can arrive at the destination and be the same person you are when you left, which is the mistake. Because the pilgrimage is, like right now, we can go to Beijing or Shanghai, this afternoon. But in the old days, you'd say, I'm going to China now. See you in 30 years.
Yeah.
And when you come back from China, guess what? You're not the same person.
Yeah.
The whole point is, what's going to change you? And so sometimes the pilgrimage is about this long journey. And by the time you get to the end of the pilgrimage, you're a different person. That's the whole point, is not just how quick can you get there, but actually at what is the practice required when you're actually finally open to something that's been with you all the time, but you just had no ability to perceive.
Yeah, that's Joyce called that an epiphany, or you touched on what he called an epiphany in everydayness.
Yeah. And again, it's what you get in life that's not official,
Yeah.
but is lived with, again, this other type of wisdom.
Can we literally multitask? Can humans literally multitask?
Uh, the short answer is I ask everybody to just dedicate what they're doing to somebody. And the
Yeah.
minute you're not just doing something for yourself, it yields all these other possibilities. And so for me, the multitasking thing is actually holding somebody in your mind who's not you while you embark on something. And the fact that you're thinking of them and offering it to them in your heart means that you're going to do it differently.
Yeah.
And the final product is not going to be this narrow, self absorbed thing, because every step of the way, you've been including other people. Every step of the way, you've been imagining other people. Every step of the way, you have said, I want you to have this. And so the this turns into something amazing.
Peter, did you learn that from the way your parents raised you or on your own? That's a beautiful, inspired thing. I like that.
Well, I mean, it's a big tradition, obviously, in Tibetan practice and so on. Is every spoon when you're eating soup, when you raise the spoon to your lips, you dedicate that soup to somebody. And so, I mean, that's dedication is one of the most beautiful things because it just always gives a purpose to everything and it always saves you from selfishness. And selfishness is what limits what you're doing. And a lack of selfishness is what opens it to the world.
Yeah. Louis Buñuel said, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. Now, everybody and their mother goes, that's great. I love that. And one guy finally says, that's bullshit. Because if I'm going to seek something, it's because I want to find it. So I morphed it into the question, if the journey's more important than the destination, why do we have to name or seek a destination if the journey's more important?
Yeah. I mean, who knows when you've arrived? Who knows where you've arrived?
Well, it's back to the epiphanies and everydayness. Joyce is sitting there in Paris in the 20s with all these slackers. They're flaneurs, psychogeography, and they're just drinking coffee and kicking back. And then they change the world forever.
Yeah, I was supposed to say, who knows who's doing what?
Yeah.
You see all you see is the surface. And the
Yeah.
surface is usually not too authentic. So that's why, again, it's best not to judge because you would be wrong. You would be wrong.
Oh, well, Peter, what's your hunch or your guess was the motive of the cave artist?
You know, what? First of all, let's just say one of the most beautiful things is we don't know.
Yeah.
And I would just say, that's one of the nightmares of the explorer visiting indigenous territory and saying, what does that mean? What does that mean? And what does that mean? And you want to just say, first of all, not everything in the world is for you to know.
Yes.
Just get over having to know everything and recognize most everything is truly not for you to know, and you will never know it.
Yeah. Hello, as Peter would say. Peter, what's more important, conviction or compromise?
Well, again, as always with all those kind of things, it's there is no compromise without conviction, and there is no conviction without compromise, because conviction can't just be this nightmare. You're going to drive your truck through whatever. That's not conviction. That's madness. That's like murderous intent. And so it's not conviction. And conviction, everything you believe has to be shaped with everyone else in the room.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's violence. And so conviction goes to really scary places when people say, no, but I'm really have full conviction. And you just want to say, excuse me, you're really dangerous to yourself and others. And meanwhile, compromise is not an adequate word. It's just that everything in life is shared. Get used to it. We have to share the air. We have to share the water. We have to share everything. So anything that you're doing that's not shared is a problem. Everything in life is shared. Share it, please. And it's not called compromise. It's called living with plants, animals, oxygen, sunlight, water.
Yeah.
That you're sharing.
Yeah. Peter, you've accomplished a lot in your life, including telling me a lot of wise things today. I appreciate this. How do you rate these three elements in your accomplishments? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
I don't exactly believe in luck ever, because, most things in life happen in a way you could never have planned. So I think of it as karma. And meanwhile, skill, John Cage has this beautiful thing of all advances in art are the direct result of a lack of skill. And ambition, we've seen a lot of people who are ambitious, but again, it's pretty poisonous. And so, at the same time, it's good not to sit around all day, but at the same time, ambition by itself is a little scary. And so you just want to say, okay, thank you for being ambitious. Now calm down and join the rest of the human race. And so, yes, they're all great things, but they're all super toxic. So you just want to, in quantity, in measured quantity, and admixed with a bunch of other things and a bunch of other qualities. And luck is, for me, understates the reality, which is miracle.
Yeah.
Most everything that happens in your life is a miracle, and it's a gift, and you don't know how you got it. You don't know what you did to deserve it, but there it is. It's a gift. And there's not one thing you have that's yours. Everything you have was given to you by somebody or by some group of people that you don't even know about, or that you're forgetting.
Yeah.
And you want to say, we all had breaks. Every one of us had breaks. Every one of us, it's not that we did this ourselves. Everything is people helping us, people giving you something you didn't have and didn't know. And so it's all, who you are is everyone you've ever met. And what you're achieving has to do with how much they invested in you and how much they trust you and how much they're supporting you.
Wow. T.S. Eliot says poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
I'm in this weird state. I don't have a difference between the inner and the outer world. It's like, hello, I can't find the dividing line of that. So I like, the inner thing is also what you're seeing every minute. It's the sunlight pouring in that window. It's like, hello, that's the inner thing.
That's good.
And
Like that. Why separate them? Well, two of my film heroes say, George Manupelli says, ignore yourself. Jonas Mika says, there is no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making more self-expression, or more you're a vehicle for whatever technologies, cultures, and environments are dominant?
Yeah, the self is not that interesting, frankly, and we spent all of our lives trying to escape it. So I don't want to put it on any kind of pedestal, and I don't want to make that any destination.
Yeah.
It's like it's the point of departure, meaning we're leaving. That
Hello.
that would be known as point of departure. We're not coming back to that. So self
Woo!
is in no way the
Yeah.
destination, and is no way the journey. It's like the journey is as far from self as you can get, and enjoy that.
Can art making be egoless?
I think all your happiest moments in life are egoless. I think that's what you're living for that.
That's where we are.
Yeah.
Is is perception reality?
Well, again, this depends. There's lots of kinds of perception, shall we say? And there's a lot of very imperceptive perception, uh, and so it depends on who's looking and how deep you're looking and what are you looking at and what are you looking for. And
Yeah.
a lot of people, because they're not looking for something very interesting, are not seeing what's right in front of them. And so it's less can you see because it's what are you looking for?
Yeah.
And then once you're looking for something more interesting, something gets more interesting. Or in your line of work, Jerry, as you know, I mean, if you want a more interesting answer, ask a more interesting question.
So I named my book Strange Questions. So so we got about 50 more minutes. Again, Peter, I really appreciate this. A couple more. Tell me one major element of your creativeness, your Peterness, you-ness, that's changed, and one major element that stayed the same in the years you've been doing and being creative.
Mm, wow. I never asked myself that question. Um, I really don't. For one thing, what pretty much remains the same in some way is that a lot of my life I've worked with the same people. I have really close friends, and we've been doing things for years.
Yeah.
And so that is stays the same. But of course, because we've known each other for 40 years, you can see that everybody's changed. So that thing of the same is the same as totally changed.
Yeah. It's one and the same. Well, Moshi, I'm so glad you've laughed through this whole thing because that's what this is all about, is to have fun. Fun is the key, as in my favorite music, funky. So Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Well, weakness is the source of compassion. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like the nightmare is being around people who think of themselves as strong
Yeah.
because they're not noticing anything.
Yeah.
And it's not till you're weak that you get real, that you get human, that you start actually seeing what's happening to other people. And when you're strong, you don't notice anybody else. And you're so proud of your strengths. And it actually isolates you, limits you, and turns you into something hard and unpleasant. So weakness is the treasure. Weakness is the jewel. Weakness is the pathway, the gateway. Weakness is the gateway. Weakness is the point where you say, I need help. I'm not enough. I actually don't know. I'm helpless. And then hello,
Hello.
that surrender is the opening.
Yeah.
Whereas the announcement that, I'm powerful, I can do anything is, super destructive and super sad
Yeah.
and lonely, very lonely. And
Like
weakness means you have to be with people in real ways.
it's it's McLuhan called it turn a breakdown into a breakthrough. So Iggy Pop said, my band was so bad imitating the Rolling Stones, we invented punk rock. Fill in the blank, Peter. Anger can be a productive emotion when
uh, oh, when it turns to outrage. But I would just say that the thing about anger is, the Buddhist text, it's just, 1 second of anger means 100,000 years of your life will be spent in hell realms.
Wow.
Anger is costly. It's very expensive. So please use it very, very, very stingily because it's expensive anger and you lose a lot and you suffer a lot from it. And so, I mean, I ask everybody to turn it into creative outrage.
Yeah.
Okay. And actually, if you're really upset about something, then let that motivate you to help solve it.
Yes.
But don't get angry. That is not only a waste of time, it is such deep damage to yourself and everyone you know.
Peter, brilliant. Because I used to ask it, can anger be a productive emotion? And people would go, yes or no. And then I changed it. And you actually went back and answered the first one without knowing it. The first wording. What's the most significant difference between women and men, physical aside?
Well, again, I think we're in this fantastic period where nobody can make gender binary anymore.
Yeah.
And where we're just in this amazing place of you don't know what people are manifesting or not manifesting. You don't know who anybody is, and nobody is what they look like.
Yeah.
And therefore the gender thing is finally, for once, exploded. And one of my favorite texts is the Vimalakirti Sutra, the first century Buddhist sutra. And there's this amazing, amazing section where a goddess is floating around and she drops in to meet Buddhist disciples and they freak out and they say, "Oh my God, a woman, unclean, unclean, get away, get away." And she laughs and she puts Buddha's main disciple, Shariputra, in a woman's body and she enters his body. So they switch bodies. And she says, "Still feeling unclean?" and and the point is there's neither male nor female. In
Yeah.
fact, and we're now at this amazing point in history where we can get out of the cliche of men are this, women are that, and just, excuse me,
Yeah.
humans are infinite, every one of them, and have lots of stuff going on inside, like way lots of stuff, most of which will never be admitted to ever. But it's alive and it's going on in there.
Yeah. What caused matriarchy?
Your mom holding you.
Yes. Hello. Peter, there's a line that goes, you create what you resist. Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel said, thank God I'm an atheist. So the basic line, your reaction, you create what you resist. Not Peter, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that line?
Again, I'm in this thing where I and try never go into binary anything
Yeah.
because it's all in there. Everything, the people you love that so deeply all your life, they can say one tiny little thing that drives you crazy. And the people standing around saying, "Why are you reacting this way?" They said this nice little sense. It was nothing. And yet it pierced you like a giant spear was thrown across a canyon right through your heart. And you go, "What?" It's because inside all that love, there's a bunch of other stuff. And that somebody you know really well can say the tiniest thing, it destroys you. And so it's not these giant binaries. It's
Yeah.
actually that all that stuff is moving through you all the time.
Yeah. You taught me a good lesson there. I had to hear that, Peter. I appreciate that. Here's 5 quick Alan Watts questions off the top of your head in a couple words. 1, who started it all?
There's no beginning.
2, are we going to make it?
Well, I would just say when everybody says the world is going to end, sorry, that would be easy. You don't get off that easily. The world is not going to end. Sorry, it keeps
Sorry.
going. You have to deal with it.
3, where do we put it?
Everywhere.
Nice. 4, who's cleaning it up?
The essential workers who have no wages and no place to live.
5, is it serious?
It's not serious till it's hilarious, and it's not
Ooh.
it's not hilarious till it's serious.
How do you find peace of mind?
You just admire the
Wow.
beauty.
Admire what?
Admire. I mean, because everything
Just
around you is
admire,
beautiful.
just the verb.
Admire, just admire.
Yeah. That's Bucky Fuller says, "I seem to be a verb."
Yeah. No, I mean,
Admire.
admire, admire.
If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
I wouldn't be able to say much.
I gotta tell you, Lee Harvey Oswald's girlfriend, not his wife, said, "I would say, 'I love you,' and it made me cry." I mean, what a thing to say to your 12-year-old self.
Wow, that's deep. Whoa.
This other filmmaker said, "Quit drinking all that peppermint schnapps." Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Oh, over.
Yeah. If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
I have already broken 13 book contracts. And I have to say, for me, I have no interest in reading about myself, and I don't think anyone else would want to either. So I have said there will be no autobiography. Plus, I live in the oral tradition,
Yeah.
and as you do. And it's not about a book. It's
Yeah.
actually about what's happening in this moment. And whatever we're saying right now is cool in some amazing way, exactly because we're saying it now. And
Exactly.
I don't want to look at that 30 years from now.
My mom says, I said, "Can I interview you?" She goes, "Yeah, but everything I say today, I might say different tomorrow." I says, "That's
I
okay."
mean, that's my deal. So I actually don't want to read that stuff ever.
Yeah. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Hmm. Whoa, Jerry, I'm not, I'm okay. Yikes. There's nothing I'm really wanting at the moment. So I can say that. Meanwhile, what I don't want, let's put, okay, Jerry, just to say, my deal is forget what you think you like and don't like and want and don't want, because God did not create the world based on what you want. So it's much more helpful not to go through life with the category of I want this, I don't want that. Because whatever you don't want is in your life,
Yeah,
and whatever you want is unreachable.
yeah,
So just want to say, get over that. So I literally eliminated that category from my life of want
beautiful.
and don't want, because it's all here
Yeah,
and you have to deal with all of it anyway, no matter what. So just stop thinking that way and
yeah.
just engage all of it.
Peter, you really helped me because that's what this series is about, is psychoanalyzing the wording on the questions, because really they're just prompts to talk about things. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Uh, keep treading water. you know,
What's Yeah, that's good. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
oh, I mean, young people just,
Yeah,
refusing to accept all
yeah,
these generations of lies and just saying, no, this is not acceptable. We can't live in this world. And the good part of that is the courage and the power of people going out there. This generation is not going quietly. And the other side of that is the unbelievable epidemic of suicide, of a lot of young people saying, I'm not going to stay here. This
yeah,
is nothing I want to be in.
yeah,
I'm leaving. And you have to say, wow,
yeah.
the challenge is real.
Yeah.
And thank God these young people are here.
Yeah. Beautiful. What's a question that remains unresolved for you?
Well, as you and I have discussed, there's not one thing that's resolved ever. So
You got an 8-hour Netflix series to do? Here we go.
there will be no resolution.
Okay, 3 more and we're out of here, Peter. This has been amazing. Okay. How has theater shaped your behavior? Like doing
Well,
theater?
theater has this thing is it's just a rehearsal for life. So
Yeah.
you get a little rehearsal for some life situations. And so you don't show up completely unprepared.
Yeah. Okay, here's a biggie in theater, Thornton Wilder in 1928. Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You laid your cards on the table for 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
Well, the secrets are real, and there are some secrets that are secret because they have magic
Yeah.
and empowerment. And some secrets are poisoning you every day. And so the sooner you get them out there, the more everybody's liberated, including you.
Yeah.
And so secrets go two ways. One is the revealing of a secret is self-liberation and declaration of independence for everyone. And the other thing is some things should never be spoken. They
Yeah.
can only be lived.
Only be lived. You know, it was funny because you told this story on some YouTube video. I think some famous actress was doing Chekhov with you or something, and she came out and she goes, "What's she hiding?" You
Right?
know,
That's Colleen Dewhurst. That was
yeah,
her first question. That's the
what's she
deal.
hiding? I immediately thought of that Wilder
That's what you
quote.
start with. That's
Yeah,
what you start with. But then again, you know, is it appropriate to reveal it?
yeah,
Or do you just have to understand it? And does
yeah,
it lose its power and danger if you just blurt it out? Yes. And the time to reveal a secret, that's the important thing. Are you revealing a secret at a moment where a revelation of that secret is going to be amazing? Or is it just some cheap, you actually spent some thing you've been holding your life and it's some kind of treasure for nothing? And so always when a secret is revealed, when is the moment when it will be powerful, liberating, and create a new era?
yeah. As Marshall said, in one era and out the other.
Oh, wow. Oh, well.
Okay, here's the last question, Peter. What gives you the most optimism?
Okay, so I'm more of the Cornell West school. Optimism is clueless white people who have no idea what's going on and say, oh, it's going to get better. And hope is what Nelson Mandela has the right to have after 26 years on Robben Island in prison.
Yeah,
And he becomes the president of South Africa. It's
yeah,
like, for me, hope is the real thing, which is when you've seen how bad it gets, you have hope.
yeah,
When you're clueless, you have optimism.
yeah,
And you know that it's not going to change unless there's blood on the altar.
yeah.
Change has to be purchased. And the only currency is blood, is sacrifice. And so hope means that, okay, you're willing to make the sacrifice. Optimism means you sit on the sidelines and say, oh, it'll get better. But you don't lift a damn finger.
Yeah. Peter, amazing. Because the first question I ask is, what's the best thing for a human being? Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And you said friends. And I love that. The last question was, what gives you the most optimism? That's what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he said, other people. It's sure been a delight spending this time with another person, especially because it was you. Peter, thank you so much.
Jerry, you're awesome, as you know. Huge hug. Thank you. Have a gorgeous rest of the day and continue your amazing life. Blazing,
Love
blazing,
you,
and
Peter.
blazing.
Love you so much. That was so powerful.
Totally.
Even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever.
Oh yeah, it's going out there. It's going out there. It's out in the cosmos now. It's light years. It's going light years. All the love, Jerry.
Love you, boy.